as we moved from the A-Day and some time passed and we came in here on Sunday morning and did our reaction, I thought more about it and I watched more Jalen Milroe and I thought more about the conversation we had with Kalen DeBoer. I think this offense is going to work. And I don't mean just work in the sense of, it'll be serviceable. Jalen Milroe will be enough of what you need. Like, I think that this is offensively in Tuscaloosa a powder keg of an operation. And I think it could be dynamite when it comes to what they're going to do in the fall. Sometimes things that don't seem like they should go together come together and then just work beautifully. Because you look at Kalen DeBoer's offense, and they threw the ball, again, I've said this a lot on this show, the last 4 years, they've thrown the ball north of 40 times a game. That's kind of been how they operate in Kalen DeBoer's offense. From Fresno State to Washington, and both those quarterbacks he's had, very different kind of players than a one Jalen Milroe, Jake Haener, Michael Penix Jr., respectively. Jalen Milroe is a specimen. He's special when he runs the football. He's a good passer, but my concern was, how is that going to work? The best comparison I can make for how this is going to work in my mind, French fries and milkshakes. I'm from the West Coast, so In-N-Out's a staple out there. There are some folks that dip their French fry in their respective milkshake. It sounds gross, it doesn't make sense, but when you actually try it for the first time, it's a beautiful thing. And it works perfectly. They complement each other just right. The salt, the sweetness from the shake, like it just, I can't explain it perfectly, but when you try it, when you see it, when you taste it, it's beautiful. So that's a weird enough comparison for us to jump into how Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe are going to work together offensively. I had my questions going into this thing. I did, for reasons I already mentioned. But when we talk about this offense and the basics of it, I think it's going to play really well into the questions I had for Jalen Milroe. Because Jalen Milroe last year, I'll say it again, he was a good passer at multiple points. It just, he wasn't consistent in the throws you needed him to be consistent at. Like that 10 to 15 yard range, I felt like there were opportunities that were left on the table for Alabama and for Jalen Milroe respectively. I want to make this clear to you as we jump into this. This is not a record or season prediction for Alabama. I'm not telling you they're winning the SEC. I'm not telling you Jalen Milroe is winning the Heisman Trophy. I'm just telling you this offense is going to score a lot of points. I think it'll be even better than it was a season ago. So going back to what I was saying, the base of this offense, some of the basics that it will implement, it's going to spread you out. Say, JD, no duh, it's a spread offense. They're going to spread you out. We watched the spring game too. What's important about that is as you align to spread out your offense, the defense has to honor that. They got to spread out with your playmakers. And so what they do pre-snap, in addition to that, is Kalen DeBoer does a lot of pre-snap movement. And he doesn't just, do the jet motion across the formation. He'll do some of that. What they do a lot at Washington a season ago that you saw, they would shift the formation of their wide receivers really close to the snap. And what that does for a defense is we have to communicate and realign to what you just did offensively. Pretty straightforward. If the offense adjusts, more often than not, the defense has to adjust with them. When you change your plan, we have to change our plan. And the reason why that's important, the greater amount of times that we make you change your plan, the more times you have to communicate, the more times you have to realign. And that just causes a greater potential for you to misalign, for you to miscommunicate, for you to, at the very least, have to simplify your plan defensively. All of those things favor us as the offense. All of those things favor Jalen Milroe. So what I think that's going to make for happening is a lot of what I would call real estate throws. Like before the snap, I know if I'm number 4 back there playing quarterback, by nature of how they just aligned to what we did pre-snap, I got an easy access throw. I got that 6-yard hitch route. I got that in route. I know where I'm going with the football before this play even starts. What they're not going to ask him to do is make a bunch of NFL throws. Hey, Jalen, layer that football over the linebacker in front of the safety and just past the corner. He may have some plays where he has to do that, but that's not going to be who he is throughout the duration of this season. They're going to give him, again, easy access throws, consistently repeatable throws that are going to be easy yardage and set up good situations for the offense. So in addition to that, another layer of that is the ability to push the ball deep. Like when you have to miss a line or if you have to spread out and you get the matchup you want, that's when the deep ball starts to kick in. That's when we can really start just tossing missiles at you and scoring big touchdowns. And that's the thing that I think people saw last year from Michael Penix Jr., and he did that at the highest level I saw last year in the college game. But it's important to remember now, Jalen Milroe has that in the bag too. Like, for all the things that Alabama fans will tell you about Jalen Milroe, one of the gripes they won't have with him is his ability to throw the deep ball. There was a point last year where I think he was like 70% when it came to passes over 20 yards. Dude is accurate when it comes to throwing the deep ball. So all that's to say, what Michael Penix Jr. did at an elite level last year, Jalen Milroe, from what I saw, already does that well. It's not going to be this massive learning curve of, okay, can you throw the deep ball, Jalen? No, he can. Offense is going to allow him to have some of those shots. He'll take them. They'll make a fair amount of them. Pretty straightforward. Now, here's the important part about this when it comes to Jalen Milroe fitting in this offense. As you stretch out a defense by how you align, the best way to say this is it makes the defense thin at a lot of levels. There's not a lot of backup plans for all those gaps and all those lanes when it comes to running or passing. You don't have a lot of two guys, you have a first line of defense and second line of defense. It's usually a lot of just across the board. We're pretty thin. Here's the thing about thin things. Thin things tend to be fragile. They tend to break more easily. And so if you give us a thin defense, there's probably going to be some lanes for Jalen Milroe to take advantage of with his legs. And that's kind of the secret sauce here that's hard to define. They're going to play to his skill set. They will, I promise you. You're not going to trot Jalen Milroe out there at quarterback and have no plan to take advantage of his legs. We didn't really see that during the spring game because Kalen DeBoer told us we're just installing the base offense. We'll get into the fall and we'll start to play a little bit more to those strengths. But at the end of the day, if you're going to make the defense thin, and I got a quarterback that can hurt you when you are thin defensively, think about the LSU game, that's when we really start cooking. That's when that secret sauce, that unquantifiable quality that he has, really starts to hurt you and take shape and cause you to score a lot of touchdowns. So that's the crazy part about this. There's some of this that we can't really trace back with Kalen DeBoer from different stops. There's some things that he just is going through at Alabama that he didn't do at Fresno State, didn't do at Washington. He's going to kind of have to adapt to Jalen Milroe. But all things considered, they're going to set him up for success. They're not going to ask him to do things that he doesn't do well. And there's a lot of things that Jalen Milroe does do well, for the record. Last part of this is kind of a little subplot within this whole thought around Alabama's offense being extremely potent. The playmakers for Alabama have to do their part. As much praise as Michael Penix Jr. got last year, and as much of it was deserved because he was on fire last year, they had some dogs on the perimeter. I mean, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, Roma Dunze, a lot of guys that won their matchups and won contested footballs in the air for their quarterback. I'm not saying you got to have 3 NFL wide receivers if you're Alabama, but I do think you got to have a couple guys step up and make plays for their quarterback and make the defense nervous they're going to make plays for their quarterback. Jeremy Bernard, transfer from Washington to Alabama, is the guy I'm watching most closely. He had a great spring game. I think he had 3 catches and north of 100 yards. Had a nice little a couple highlight plays where he caught one over the middle. It was a deep post that was contested. He came down with it. Caught a deep crossing pattern from Jalen Milroe that I think was probably the play of the A-Day if you're a Jalen Milroe stan. All that's to say, they got a good basis for that, I think, at that wide receiver room. But as this portal's open up now, keep an eye on Alabama and that wide receiver market. I think they're going to be aggressive just in the portal period, but I'm very curious to see what the wide receiver market looks like and how aggressive they are on that front, because I think they're going to add some playmakers. So with that being said, Jalen Milroe, going to be a stud for you. Truly believe that. Going to be a stud for you. And Alabama offensively will be extremely potent. I've seen the light. No way around it. I've seen the light. I'm a believer in Jalen Milroe. I'm a believer in that Bama offense. But one governor I'm watching here is how much that defense is able to hold up their end of the bargain. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.